Hey, hey, you are listening to Rerun It Back, a minimally produced, over-caffeinated dialogue about the three-channel world. I'm Jack.
I'm Scott.
And this week we are taking a look at a beloved 80s crime show that was kind of a crime show, but it was kind of just a precocious character study. We are talking about Murder, She Wrote.
Yes.
Starring Angela Lansbury. She of movies that are far different from this show. But I'm going to let Scott, you have seen many, 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 many more episodes of this show. Tell me why you wanted to examine this and what you love about it.
Oh, gosh. How many hours do you have? No, seriously. So I grew up this came out when I was maybe 10, 11 years old. And, I was a weird kid. I read Agatha Christie mysteries. My parents read all this shit. We had watched BBC shit. And it's like, oh, this is like an American Miss Marple set in New England. And I was familiar with Angela Lansbury because I watched Bedknobs and Broomsticks far too many times. And just like, wow, this is a really cool show about a lady who's a writer, and I wanted to be a writer, and she lives in Maine, and she goes and solves murder mysteries. And it became kind of a phenomenon. CBS did not expect this to be the hit that it was. And it ended up, what they thought may have run 3 or 4 seasons ended up running, I want to say like at least 12 or 13 seasons, if not longer. And then on top of that, there were a series of made-for-TV movies. And if you go into the interwebs today, like Instagram, the fandom for Murder, She Wrote just lives on. They give tours of the area in Mendocino, California, where they filmed the exterior shots of like Jessica Fletcher's house in Cabot Cove, Maine. And
so this was, I did not realize this, that they shot well, I knew they were going to shoot the exteriors in California, and we'll get to that.
Oh, yes.
But it was Mendocino, because it didn't look like New England.
No. So, it was basically California. Maybe they shot a little bit in Oregon during some of the early seasons, but no. In fact, so this was a Universal Studios production. And in one of the later episodes, now, throughout the whole series, they would shoot on the back lot, and it was not hard to spot it if you knew your Universal Studios. But there was a specific episode where Jessica Fletcher goes to an unnamed movie studio to argue about her book that's being turned into a script against her wishes or something. And lo and behold, there's the Universal Studios backlot, and lo and behold, there's the Psycho House, and someone gets killed in it. Yeah. It was probably my favorite show of the 80s into the 90s, and I will still gladly sit down and watch an episode anytime.
Okay. I watched my first episode of it roughly 11 hours ago. I have never watched it, and which is weird because my life is filled with sedate, brooding British crime procedurals. It's kind of my life now. And that's, and I'm happy with that. This show is everything I expected it to be. And I will just leave it at that. Not my favorite thing. It wasn't necessarily something I would watch again. But for this exercise, I am grateful that I did. So, Scott, you picked out, I asked you when you came to me and you said I want to do one on Murder, She Wrote. I said, okay, I'm going to watch one episode. Which one should it be? And you picked in season 1, episode 20. And just parenthetically here, you are correct. This show ran 12 seasons, which is impressive. But it was 12 seasons by the standard of the 3-channel world, wherein those a season ran 20, 22, 24 episodes. These poor writers were kept in crates to write this much television.
Well,
now,
Jack, not to interrupt, but it's like, and this show evolved considerably over the years too. So, what started as just, Jessica being this widow who wrote a surprise bestseller and suddenly people are dropping dead in this small town, to by the end of it, she was a world traveler. She knew all these famous people and did glamorous things and lived in New York City. And yeah, it changed a lot.
So I'm going to look at this. So season 1 was 23 episodes. Season 12 was 24. And I'm getting my calculator app out right now because when you think about it, this is a lot of people who were murdered around one person. So I'm just going to
really
take
like, you have to wonder if it wasn't, in fact, Jessica Fletcher who was the one killing people all this time, maybe as practice for her books. I don't know. Maybe as a hobby. Maybe she was a psycho. No, I think some people just live really very interesting lives.
264 people were murdered around her, at least, by my count. If I am to assume that each episode one person was murdered, does that sound about right? I would assume there might be a double murder here.
There were a few episodes where multiple people were bumped off, yes, but typically it was one person.
So there was never an episode where they just killed time. They were actually murdering people. So
they were always murdering people.
Okay. Fair. So 264 people were killed around this person, and that doesn't really affect her. I would think that if I were around 264 murders over the course of, say, 12 years, I would probably need to go into therapy and probably just seal myself off from society, because that's just weird and awful.
Well, and not only that, but there were many episodes where Jessica knew the killer. Like it was a family friend or an old acquaintance or a really nice person that she'd met earlier, So, I mean, yeah, there is plenty of trauma to go around, but she was a flinty New Englander, remember?
Well, and she was also in The Manchurian Candidate, where she had this creepy incestuous relationship with her son, who had been brainwashed to assassinate a politician.
Yeah,
so I'll just let you draw your own conclusions.
You have to be careful about bringing the baggage from certain roles, But anyhow, so yes, murder takes the bus. You said, what is it? You asked me, what is like the quintessential Murder, She Wrote episode? And I couldn't really answer that because the show went in phases. There was the Cabot Cove phase. There was the New York City phase. There was I'm not really going to be in a lot of episodes. I'm just going to introduce different people getting killed phase. That was bad and short. And then it was like her golden days where she just, yeah, that guy did it. Now I'm going to go back and play tennis now. Phase at the end.
There's okay. So you're kind of so she had her different eras.
Yes, but this is
what was your favorite?
Go ahead.
This is the no. So this is like a classic example of this. I just want to ask: is there an era that you favor out of this 12-season run?
Oh, the early ones are great because they're early, and they're also kind of kitschy and shallow. Golly, I'll watch any episode. The change over to the 90s was not always smooth. And there was a point where she was kind of phoning it in. She wanted CBS had to ask her to come back a few times because it was so successful. But there was a period where like she's like, all right, my contract's up. I'm done. I am not doing any more Murder, She Wrote. And they're like, what if you do a season or two where basically you only have to do half the number of episodes and the rest of the time you can just like introduce stories about other people getting involved in hijinks, and maybe we could spin one off as a new TV show. That was not great. But yeah.
Well, they gave her the option to phone it in.
Well, yeah. I mean, and honestly, Jack, what's really interesting is so when Murder, She Wrote started, it was a creation of her husband. Her husband was a TV producer, and he came up with this idea. It was his creation. By the end of it, when CBS is like, please come back for a few more seasons, Angela Lansbury was the executive producer of the show. Basically, it was a family operation. You know, her husband had created it. She was now the executive producer, so she's getting all the money. Her sons were writers and directors on the show. It's pretty amazing. I mean, like, she could have just retired there, never done Beauty and the Beast, never gone back to Broadway or whatever. But, you know, yeah.
Man,
no one
so
expected
CBS,
Murder, She Wrote to be as big as it was.
CBS wouldn't let it die, so to speak.
Yeah, well, it was a cash cow. It was like within the top. It was in the top 10, probably its entire run.
I'm trying to remember. It was on Sunday nights, right?
Sunday nights after 60 Minutes.
There you go.
I know.
Yeah,
and
that
then,
valuable. Yeah.
You know, if the late Sunday NFL game ran late, then 60 Minutes ran late, and the next thing you know, you're up past your bedtime, still waiting on Angela Lansbury to figure out who did it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, Murder takes the bus.
Okay, so
why is this awesome?
We've kind of covered. Okay, so we're gonna. I have insights and thoughts into this, and they're wonderful insights. They're hilarious insights, I think. Let's just give a quick recap of the plot, spoilers included. I'm going to try, since I have watched it this morning, I am going to try to recount this as best I can, and I will keep the stammering to a minimum. We open on a sunny Southern California, a sunny exterior in Maine. With the fact that it was sunny, I already was calling bullshit on that. As a former New Englander, it's always cloudy and the sun sets at 3 p.m. At least in Northwest New England. So I have no reason to think it was any different in Maine. And the first thing there, it looks like people are getting on a bus. We're gonna take a bus someplace. We find that it is Boston bound, but our protagonist, one Jessica Fletcher, pen named J.B. Fletcher, is riding a bus to Portland, Maine, with the local sheriff. Was it Amos Tupper?
Amos Tupper, played by Tom Bosley.
Okay, now I have thoughts about Tom Bosley, but I'll just say right now, love Tom Bosley.
Yeah, but that
they're
accent.
going. Yeah, so they're going. Oh, I'm going to get to the accent. So, so they're all riding a bus along with some other guest stars whom we will outline. They're taking a bus to Portland, Maine, for some sort of, I don't know.
It's a sheriff's association meeting or annual meeting or something, and there's supposed to be a dinner that Sheriff Tupper has great food, and then there's going to be a raffle or something.
There's a raffle for a television. Okay, very excited about this. Okay, so then there's a bunch of people on the bus. It's very rainy as they get going. And one of the things that Jessica Fletcher says is, where is so-and-so who's normally the bus driver? She asks this to the current bus driver, and the bus driver says he's sick. And I'm already like, okay, I'm looking at the bus driver. This bus driver's up to something. I noticed this straight away. So pat me on the back. You know where this is going. So they're riding the bus. It's rainy. Linda Blair's there with her husband, and looks like it's a tense marriage. Also on the bus is one Rue McClanahan, this time dressed up as a sexy librarian. And accompanying her is actor Larry Linville, also known as Frank Burns from TV's MASH. And there's another guy. There's a grizzled fisherman archetype. There's also a guy who just is a New England accent in a sensible suit.
Oh, the old guy.
The old guy really doesn't bring anything to the show.
He's got a pocket full of Werther's originals. You just know it.
Just a New England accent is basically what it is.
Exactly.
So, zipping along here, it's rainy. There's a bus stop along this highway. They pick up this stranger who has a suitcase. Very quiet. It's very intense. And then it gets too rainy, and then they have to pull over at this cafe. Was it the Cozy Corner Cafe? All K's.
That sounds good to me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Cozy Corner Cafe. 3 K's. Creepy as heck now that I say that out loud. And so now they're kind of sitting around, and the bus driver says, I'm having problems with the bus. And I'm like, yeah, something's wrong with the bus driver. I actually made a note at 9 minutes 34 seconds into the episode. It's definitely the bus driver. So then they're sitting around drinking coffee. It's run by a fellow named Ralph. Played by character actor Mills Watson, who was in so much other TV in the 80s. One of these guys, you see him and you're like, yeah, I definitely know who this dude is. I've seen him in stuff, but there was nothing of note. But dude worked. I ain't hating. So they sit around, and then she sees the angry husband arguing with this dude who got on the bus later, and then she has to get on the bus, and then, oh my God, someone shoved a screwdriver into his shoulder. And he is now dead. So then everybody's kind of reined in at this cafe, and there's a lot of red herrings. There's a plot twist halfway in where we find out, hey, the bus driver did stab him. What a shock. But she's looking at a couple other suspects. Larry Linville, but he was playing a video game called Roadhog. He denied doing it, even though he's a college professor and he's playing a video game, which I already something doesn't smell right there. And there was a guy who had a gun, but it turned out he was a jewelry salesman. No, wait a minute.
He worked for an insurance company. He was an investigator.
Exactly. He was trying to tail this guy because it turns out this guy was involved in some big bank heist.
Yes, the guy had just been let out of prison.
Yeah,
and he was one of the people involved in the bank heist that had led to the murder of somebody.
The bus driver's daughter.
The bus driver's daughter. Yes. How, of course, could we forget that? Yes.
So we're about 30 minutes into this episode, and the bus driver has already admitted to it. And I'm like, so what in the living heck are we going to do for the next 30 minutes? Because there's
going to be action. There's going to be intrigue.
48 minutes of network airtime. Now, I'm just going to break this down again. 23 episodes. Also, mind you, in that era, the commercial spaces were not as plentiful as they are now. Where like you have to write for about 44 minutes for maybe an hour-long drama now. Back then, you had to write for about 48 minutes. So these poor writers, I mean, shout out to the writers who produced this thing, because that's a lot of writing. So you're halfway through, you're like, okay, so we got to fill half hour of this show. What the fuck are we going to do? So Jessica points out, well, if he already died, all the blood's going to be pooled toward his feet. That's why there was no blood on the screwdriver, which the science of that, as someone who has watched way too much Forensic Files, I don't buy that. I'm not even going to borrow it. I'm not buying it. I'm not renting it. So, at any rate, it just goes on and on and on. There's this gun. The jewelry guy gets shot. Turns out the sailor shot him because the sailor was involved in the grizzled fisherman. He was involved in this, and he wasn't really a grizzled fisherman.
Yes, because he tied a knot that a sailor would never have tied, because Jessica Fletcher knows all about how sailors tie certain knots. But you're forgetting the best subplot.
Rue McClanahan stealing the book?
Yes, Rue McClanahan. So this is the reason, one of the primary reasons, alongside Linda Blair, that I recommended this, is that this features a pre-Golden Girls Rue McClanahan. So instead of the, very modernly attractively, sexily dressed Blanche Devereaux of Golden Girls, you have the Rue McClanahan's character, whose name eludes me, who is dressed like a frumpy librarian with, a high collar, probably big glasses and all this
Smoldering, sexy librarian McClanahan.
Definitely not a sexy librarian. She had a stiff whatever. Anyhow, yes. So the prisoner had gotten on the bus and had a book, a murder mystery, The Hangman something or other. It was a minor mystery it was the first something. The Hangman something. It was like the first novel written by this very minor crime writer, and like it's in pristine condition. And it's like, well, I don't remember why the prisoner had it, but he had it. But anyhow, of course I remember. So, Rue McClanahan steals it, and they're like, well, then she confesses to it. It's like, well, why did you do it? It's like the book isn't really worth much as a because of the writer. She's like, no, but this is one of these rare first editions where they did not cut all the pages when they printed it, which I guess is a rare printing error. Only a librarian would probably know such things. So that's why she stole the book. And, she's just being very modest and kind of cagey. But when
they needed the money.
Well, when Jessica calls her on it, she's like, yeah, I did it. And of course, Larry Linville's like, honey, how could you do this? And she's like, well, it's not like a mathematician makes money or anyhow. But then it turns out that the book is significant because the dead prisoner guy was hiding a key to a safe deposit box, right? Where
he's keeping it in the binding of the book.
Where the spoils of their heist when he was kept. Yes, okay.
So that's really all they need to know. So then we go back. For some reason, she divines that not only did the bus driver stab him, but he actually strangled the man ahead of time, because, as the logic of this script would say, is that he stabbed the guy because he knew the coroner would say the cause of death was strangulation. Hence, he would, by confessing, be cleared in it, because no one would be. He's like, well, you didn't actually kill him; you just stabbed a dead body, which I guess is a misdemeanor in Maine. Roll credits. Jessica Fletcher was supposed to win the television if she had made it, which, and
all throughout this episode, Amos Tupper keeps complaining about, like, well, looks like we're going to miss the main course. And then it's like, well, guess we're going to miss the apple pie. And it's like, oh, guess we're going to miss the drawing. And for all this, Jessica's like, oh, Amos, it's okay. There's always one next year. And then at the end, and she's like, oh, you don't need a TV anyhow. And then he's like, oh, but you were the winner or something, which I don't know how he.
Yeah, that was exactly how it ended. So, okay, so we're.
And it was a freeze frame. It was a freeze frame, like most.
Oh, they always ended
episodes. It was like
the freeze frame, like
very stunned looking face,
Yeah. That was basically how it ended. So, okay, first of all, I got to get, and got to talk about Tom Bosley. I love Tom Bosley. I do. He's America's dad. He's,
but how he got that role?
Fatherly. It's a very fatherly vibe. His voice is soothing, but his accent on this show is terrible.
It's like
It
he's
is
trying to do a really bad Irish accent, is the closest I could figure, but
it
like a
was
bad
like
one.
it was like a failed actor in Vermont trying to affect a southern accent in a production, in a dinner theater production of Inherit the Wind.
It is a
It
very
was
dinner theater
kind of
accent.
New Englandy, but it was also kind of southerly.
Well, and this is
It
the
was like,
thing, is that in a
pick
later
a
episode,
region.
no, I know, but this is the thing, and I think he was supposed to be from Boston, but here's the thing. There's another episode where his sister, who is like fleeing her abusive husband, comes to stay with him, and he alludes to family either in Virginia or Kentucky. It was very odd. It was very, very strange.
That's
and
the
then at some
writers were
point,
trying to cover for him.
yeah, and then at some point, either Tom Bosley was like, "Peace, I'm out. I'm going to do those stupid commercials for the scissors that cut pennies in half," or dog food, or whatever he was doing, or the writers are just like, "Yeah, we can't keep doing this," and they brought in another guy whose both real name and character names elude me, but he was a divorced New Yorker who had moved to Maine to like find himself after his divorce or something like that. And he was a less remarkable but fairly utilitarian sheriff, whereas Sheriff Tupper was just, yeah.
So Sheriff Tupper was not on the show the entire time. They brought on.
Nope, they wrote him out after like 4 or 5 seasons.
So he was like the Mrs. Garrett, and this guy was like Pearl.
I guess. I'm not
Facts
sure.
of Life. No, that was the Different Strokes reference.
Different,
Sorry.
yeah. I no, but so yeah. After about like 4 or 5 seasons, he's gone. They bring this other guy in. Other fun fact: most of Murder, She Wrote, Jessica had a gentleman friend in Cabot Cove, Dr. Seth Hazlitt, who is your very flinty New Englander. She was supposed to be like, they were BFFs, but that's it. He was not in the original episode. Her BFF was supposed to be a fisherman played by Claude Akins, except Claude Akins died after they were only shot like the pilot episode. Said they had to find another episode.
Whoa, so
those writers are
Sheriff
working.
Lobo? As in
Yeah.
Sheriff Lobo?
Claude Akins.
Oh, man.
One whole episode.
He didn't make it.
Nope.
And then oh gosh.
It was kind of like the Traveling Wilburys when Roy Orbison died. Except they would have like done, it would have been like if he'd only done one song. You remember what I'm talking about? They like the video with the empty chair in it, and that was supposed to be Roy Orbison. It was just creepy. Anyhow,
what a lovely tribute. Yeah, lovely
Sheriff
tribute.
Tupper.
Sheriff Tupper. Should I watch another episode of this, or am I just okay?
You should totally watch another episode of this because Murder, She Wrote is awesome. I cannot say this is necessarily the best episode, but if you really want to go hard into the 80s, I want to say about maybe 4 seasons in, back in the 80s, every so often, the network would have a crossover between TV series, usually to like bring one franchise up in the ratings. And there was a 2-part Murder, She Wrote Magnum PI tie-in, and one episode aired as Murder, She Wrote, and one episode aired as Magnum PI, and Magnum and Jessica did not really get along too well at first, but, they had to play nice because she was friends with Higgins. How the hell she was friends with Higgins, I don't know. That's for another episode. But I would say if you want to go for another scoop of Jessica Fletcher, do a double, do the Murder, She Wrote Magnum PI tie-in.
I am intrigued, but I don't know if I have the stomach for it at the moment.
You don't need to do it now. I would suggest waiting until an idle Saturday when you have nothing better to do. But let me tell you, Jessica Fletcher rocked those pastel tropical prints.
She was, it was very, it was not a very challenging crime show. I don't really know what to call it. It was It was
It was a
precious.
whodunit. It was a
Yeah, it's a
whodunit.
whodunit. It's kind of a whodunit. It's a whodunit with it was. As I was seeing all these people, these familiar faces on the bus, it was very much like a Love Boat whodunit.
Oh, and
As far
it's
as guest
actually a
stars.
really good way to put it, because throughout the 12 or so seasons of Murder, She Wrote, it was one of the last of its era that always had the guest stars or the well-known character actors. And then it gets real interesting, because sometimes a person who played one character would come back a few seasons later and play a different character. Best example is the actor who played Seth Hazlitt, her BFF flinty New England doctor friend, in an early episode was actually a killer. One of 4.
Oh.
Yeah, that was
So
ballsy.
basically, they had casted him twice.
Well, it was a year or two apart, but yeah, that was ballsy. Like, okay, Jessica, we're just going to forget Jessica, nailed you as a murderer. Now you're going to be like friends.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Other actors would come back. They would have new roles. A recent episode I watched was Leslie Nielsen, who he cannot do a romantic lead. I'm sorry. I think Naked Gun. I think Airplane. Oh my God. Yeah. Go with the Magnum Murder, She Wrote double episode sometime.
I will look this up.
It.
I promise I'll look this up. So I think we got to wrap this up. Any other closing thoughts?
No, other than I need to close the window because it's kind of getting chilly outside.
Okay, good to know. Hey, thank you all for tuning in. We'll do another one of these. I don't know what we're going to do next week, but it'll be hilarious and spontaneous and brilliant. And keep those cards and letters coming.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Jack. I got another big pile today. When am I going to finish these? I'm still working on the last.
I'm getting boxes of underwear from prisons, which is really strange.
Yeah, okay. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to say goodnight.
It's just one box. I was kidding. It's just one box. All right. At any rate, thanks for listening if you made it this far. God bless you.
Good night.
Good night.